Sorry, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to kind of a new piloty. We're so wanting to do member stories to build the community, I guess, a little bit more, to get RoR members to come in and share their stories. Having these horses, we all go through ups and downs and inside out. And I think it's really important to not only just do the educational stuff, but learn from each other and feel like that. I always say, I always worry that people feel like they're on their own or they're struggling or there's questions around certain things. And we really want these member stories so that you guys can come along, ask questions, feel involved as well instead of, kind of maybe sitting and learning, which is great because we will still have the monthly educational side of it, but to start with maybe the more community aspect of it. So kind of for you guys to be able to tell your stories of your journey with your ex-racehorse. So it doesn't mean that your ex-racehorse needs to have been successful on the track or that they need to have been awful. They can, or that they've gone on post racing to kind of go to great heights. We can share the stories of every single horse. So again, it's not about competing. It's about, the journey that you've been on with your ex-racehorse. So that's what these series are going to be about. And we're really excited to be able to kind of share this and do this. And this evening, we're hoping that, well, there is hoping that next we're going to try and see how this evening goes. And we're hoping that this will progress forward. With more of these webinars available to you guys. So as always, please, if you have any questions, please do use the chat box. Robin, who is the Midlands RDO, is going to be keeping an eye on them and kind of going along with it. And this evening we have Nicola Farmer, who has very kindly agreed to come on and tell her story with her horse. But before we get started with that, just a couple of like businessy things is okay, that's the wrong way around already. No, I'm not starting off very well. Um, go away. I want to hit play. I want to hit play. Ah, there we go. Right. So please, as always, the reason these webinars are free, which is amazing, they are free because Agria support them. Please do go and scan the QR code. Even if you aren't thinking about a quote for your horse, Agria do all animals, all pets. They are an amazing company. The woman that owns it actually has X-race horses. So when I say they get it, they really do. And Agria not only support these webinars, they also support multiple events through the RoR, including like the social evenings as well. They truly are a wonderful company. So if you would like to get a quote, have a go and look and see what they do, or just inquire, please scan this QR code. It will be at the end as well, just to do it. And also, if you are not a member of the RoR, please, another QR code which is at the bottom here, please do go and sign up to the RoR. So with yourself, with your horse, we have some people that are signed up to the RoR that currently don't have a horse, and that is, again, it's members, absolutely fine. But if your ex-race horse is not signed up to the RoR, it is free. There are so many benefits to joining the RoR, so please scan the QR code at the bottom here. Again, I will remind you again at the end. But yeah, please do, like, you get access to events, clinics, shows, like you don't have to pay. It is free to sign up and it's really easy to do. So please go along and sign up with that. So with the formalities put to kind of one side, this evening we're going to go back a few pages. And we're doing member stories, and we're doing this with Nicola Farmer, and the French horse, who is called Frog. His racing name is the French horse. We call him Frog. We call him Frog. I'm going to say we because I've known Frog and Nick for quite a while, and I believe them to be part of the family. Um, but this is the journey of Nicola and Frog. And what we're going to do with the member stories is we're always going to start with the same question. So whoever we're talking to, I think it's really important to kind of like, where did we start off and why did we do this? So Nick, I don't know if you want to either introduce yourself quickly and then go into it, or whether you want to start with my first question to you, which is why thoroughbreds? Why X-race
Mhm.
horses?
Yeah, so I'm Nicola and I bought Frog in April 2021. Um, Before him I had my old horse. He was like my childhood pony. I'd lost him about 18 months before, which was just just before the start of COVID. And I'd had him 33 years. So I was in quite a nice little comfortable bubble with him. lost him, sort of had 18 months where I was just sort of just recovering really, because you don't have a horse for that long and then just, you know, go, well, I don't anyway, move on to my next one. So I had Frog and he turned up, or I went and collected him. And I was just like, oh my God, what have I done? And my mum texted me as I was coming home and said, let me know when you're home. I want to come and see him. And I was just like, if it doesn't stand still, it will be back up for sale before it's even off the box, because the box was just rocking. And I think I chose a thoroughbred because, if I'm being honest, I did sort of, at the time, I'm not now, but it was that whole rescuing an ex-racehorse and giving it a nice home. And I'd had a little bit of experience with thoroughbreds when I was in my teens, and I really liked this horse that I'd ridden for this lady. So I think it was a combination of the two. So that's how I ended up with a thoroughbred.
Do you mind me asking, like, with the preconceived idea of you were saving a racehorse from racing, like, what was it that made you think that or kind of lean towards it?
Um, well, my old farrier, he used to shoe a lot of racehorses, and he was very, very old school and very contrary, shall we say. But he used to say the best thing they can do to a racehorse is shoot it when it finishes its racing career, because people like you would end up with them, not know how to look after them, and they're better off dead. And I do kind of, I mean, that's quite a extreme opinion, but I do get what he meant, because they do get into the wrong hands, and that's where their bad reputation comes from. And well, that's what I've, that's things that I've heard, and it's actually just that they're not understood. Um, so yeah, sorry, what was the question? I forgot.
No, it was just why you did that, because I think like quite a few people, like even now when I speak to people, they still have that view of we are saving a horse from racing. And I
Mm,
I think it also shows a change in the times of, like people had preconceived ideas, but I don't think there was as much access. So with the development of social media, with incentives like National Racehorse Week, when you can go into race yards for free, I think again, like there's been a big push kind of from the racing side to increase transparency. I also think there's been obviously the massive development with the RoR and their educational stuff. And I do think that people's perceptions or level of understanding is changing, and they're stopping
mm,
those bold statements. Does that make sense? Like those kind
yeah,
of like short, sharp, well, this is what I believe because I've seen it once, so therefore I'm going to like die on that hill of like this is what I think. And but I think it's really common of I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I think it's when things go wrong with when we've got a horse that's left racing, when things aren't going right or things are going wrong, or like your farrier seeing them, for example, and they're like, oh, they've got crap feet. Why have you got a thoroughbred? No one should have them, this, that, and the other. It just kind of you make up these assumptions, don't you? Like thoroughbred
yeah.
has bad feet, and it doesn't. It's just that horse, but it's
And
very quiet.
I think I'd got my farrier's voice in one ear, and then I'd also seen the pictures on the internet where you've got one side of the screen where it was winning a massive big race, and then the other side where it's left racing, and 6 years later it's skin and bone. And through being on the ROR, I know that it's not like that. And doing the race yards, they're actually so well looked after in the racing world that you just don't realise. And it is becoming more apparent now. But at the time, that's probably where I was at with it. So I went to rescue my ex-racehorse.
And whilst we were rescuing Frog, and Frog was sending the lorry left, right, sideways, inside out, and getting everyone seasick on the journey home. At what point did we kind of think, oops, what were your thoughts? Or like what, again, because I think it's very common if we get a horse and we then kind of take a step back and go, what have I done?
Yeah.
Why
Well,
did I?
we was halfway home, and I was thinking, why didn't I just get a happy hat? Why didn't I get an old cob? This is just like a bad idea. Um, but then once we got home, he didn't like really do anything. He used to run around the field being just like crazy. Um, but he didn't really do anything silly as such. It was just he was 6, 7, and my old horse was 38 when he died. So you know, it was like opposite ends of the spectrum. I'd got healthy, well, not, yeah, healthy-ish, fit ex racehorse on well, there in front of me, but I was used to dealing with a an old retired horse that didn't do it, you know, was just happy being a field ornament. So it was a bit of a, you know, cold shock to the system.
When you purchased Frog, so Frog was from a private sale, wasn't he? Kind of so
Yeah.
private home. What were you looking for your next horse? Like, what were you hoping, dreaming for? What was that all about with you and Frog?
I wanted something just because I just love like being with him. So, and that sort of relationship that and building that understanding. So I was just looking for like a friend really and just a hack. That's all I wanted to plod around the village, and just have something when you've had a bad day with the kids or a bad day at work, just to go down and just be with them for an hour and just chill out.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
So tell me the vast realities of we got Frog home. Tell us
Yeah.
about
So
being on with the Froggles.
yeah. So when I had him, he'd got like this little lump on his leg. I won't go, I mean, that's a whole new webinar on its own, but he had this lump on his leg, which turned out to be cancerous. It was cut out, it came back. He had chemotherapy, he had ulcers, his feet weren't great. So, you know, I put him on biotin, thinking that was, you know, I'll give him some biotin and in 12 months' time, his feet will be good. Um, he had dental issues, so we had teeth out that, you know, yeah, it just didn't go to plan. Um, and all the time, I just felt like I was fixing all these problems, and I just felt that there was still something not right. You know, I'm not a massively talented rider, but I could get a horse going in an outline. I could not do it with him. And I just thought, oh, I've lost it. I've not ridden properly for years. And, you know, he was bigger than my old horse. You know, you can't ride these bigger horses. And sort of always doubted myself rather than him, although I did feel that I was still missing something. And I remember saying to my friend and to the vet, I'm sure this horse has got kissing spine. And they both looked at me, and my friend actually said, why are you going looking for problems? And I said, oh, well, I'm not. I just feel that there's something not right still. Um, and I mentioned it to the vet because he used to get these little swellings after I'd ridden him on his back, completely non-reactive to them. And she went all down his back and she said, does he do this, this, this? And I was, no, 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 no. The only thing he did was he had these little swellings. He would nap and he would rear, nothing nasty, probably like 2 foot just off the ground. Um, and when we came to the, I think it was an ulcer demonstration at your yard, I really feel like we was at a crossroads and we was just going round and round in circles because we'd fixed all the obvious things, and I just didn't know which road to go down because I knew that there was something not right, and I just thought, well, it's me. And we met you, and you know, I was just listening to you talk, and you know, when you just think, oh, I really like what this lady's saying, and I think by the end of it, I'd booked him in for 2 weeks schooling.
Yeah, and
It
I
turned
think
into 6 months.
but I think it's also important to highlight at that point. You were very clear with me if you said, all I want to do, and I think also people have dumb it down sometimes of like all I want to do, and it's not all, but all I want to do is go hacking and be able to do maybe a pole work clinic or come for a lesson. Like I know I can hack him, but I don't know if I can ride him in the school. And you were so wonderful about I don't want to hurt him, but I want to know if this is possible without him being upset. I've had all of these problems, like the fact that a horse had chemotherapy. I don't think I've ever heard of that before. I was like, what the heck? This horse has had chemo. Okay. But yeah, I think it's really important because like sometimes we have again preconceived ideas that, people say, I want to do this, this, and this, but you were very straight with me and you're like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I knew it was really important to you, and I don't want people to ever like downplay that of themselves of when they say, it's only just no, it's as important whether or not you want to go and ride around badminton or you want to go for a hack down the road, it carries the same equal weight of people's own personal
Yeah.
goals and own journey. Um, and so yeah, Frog came and hung out for I think yeah, we didn't even get to week two. I think we got to week one, didn't we? Before I was like, we've got something.
I think he'd been with you 4 days,
Yeah.
and I came over to see him, and he was like, "Oh, let's just pop him on the lunge." And yeah, then I think the following week he had his X-rays,
Yeah.
and we'd sort of chatted about it, and had sort of we were sort of kind of expecting the kissing spine diagnosis, but you and I had spoke about the injections and how, we'd had a chat about how we can school him and strengthen his back that way. And then Andy was like surgery, and it's just like, oh, and I remember Andy was on my left and you was on my right, and he said, but the rehab is key. And I just looked at you and said, can you do it? And because it is a very lonely place
Mm.
when you feel that you've got this massive this massive issue, and you're not 100% sure how you're going to navigate your way through it. Um, so I was just very lucky at the time that you would take him, and I was in a position for him to go to you. Um, and you was just I probably drove you insane with my texts and my questions, but it was just having that strong person there saying it's fine, it's fine. He's climbed the wall of the stables today when he's meant to be on box rest, but it's fine. And it was nice not having to worry about it. It sounds awful, but I felt so out of my depth. It was nice that it was, I don't want to say your problem, but it was nice that you would deal with it. And then you'd say to me, he's done this, I've done that, and now he's standing asleep. Great.
But it was, I think also just going back a few steps, it was also the choice between medicating and surgery. Of you were, again, so brilliantly honest with yourself and us, and you were saying, look, if we go down the injection route, for example, I don't have an arena at the time you were like, I don't have access to an arena, and I don't feel confident in being able to assess whether he's in pain or not, or when if the injections help him, whether or not it then starts to not be as, successful. And so therefore, like the surgery was the option, wasn't it, really? I don't mean to be kind
Yeah.
of rude on it. And it was like, okay, so then the surgery's happening. Um, and like even remember when I dropped him off and I saw you in the stable with him because I had to go pick up another horse, and you looked at me and you went, "Am I doing the right thing?" And I thought, "Oh Lord," I was like, "Yes, it's fine, it's fine. I promise it's fine." But like you said, it's really daunting and really lonely, and it can seem quite overwhelming, and especially for a horse like Frog. Like he didn't, he was fine in the end, but he didn't cope. He doesn't cope with change of routine, does he? Or he doesn't cope
No.
with like box rest. The concept of box rest was like
Yeah.
no, like, it was just going to be difficult. And actually, but with the routine and giving him a friend and making sure, again, we always kind of tailored the yard a bit round Frog for those first 2 weeks to make sure he was always happy. It is quite overwhelming and quite overfacing. And, like you said earlier, it's, you question your own abilities, which it wasn't about that at all. But I do completely appreciate that. So then we went through the kissing spine rehab. And then on top of that, we had saddle fit concerns. And we
Yeah.
feet concerns. Anything
Yeah.
else for that? Anything else there?
Not at the time. I think there was ongoing teeth concerns, but I think that had settled down at the time.
His
So
teeth went,
yeah, but
and the feet got better as a result of him having had the surgery because he
yeah,
then wasn't throwing himself and loading himself. And then the saddle fitting was a bit of a tricky thing to navigate for a while, but
yeah,
again, it was that communication between the pair of us of being open, and you were always so brilliant. You're like, yep, whatever he needs. But like, surely when we're talking about like, yes, kind of, okay, Frog needs this, Frog needs that. At what point were you like, if that was me, I would have been crying in a corner quite a lot. And I would have been questioning my sanity, questioning my confidence, questioning my abilities. Like, what do you think, like, even just before we get onto the riding side of things and you taking him home, like, talk me through that kind of stuff.
what the confidence and the
Yeah. Or your feelings throughout it, which might sound a bit woo-woo. And I know you're kind of sat here currently on a webinar with a load of strangers like listening to you, which I totally get.
no, I think because we had you there, that was just like a massive, it was just so, it made me feel so comfortable knowing that I knew that he was in the best place. And I just felt at the time that I didn't have the knowledge to do it myself. Um, and I didn't have the confidence because although I'd had horses for so long, I'd not had one with such like what at the time seemed such a major problem.
Mm.
Um, so it was just I just used to read everything, overthink everything, question everything. Like you'd say something and I'd go home and Google it, not because I was questioning what you said, but just to gain a better understanding.
Mm.
Um, and I think those 6 months, I probably learned more about horses than I'd learned in the last 30 odd years. And also just like trusting my gut instinct, because you would say things and I'd think, well, I did think that, or oh, okay. And sometimes I wasn't as far off from the situation as I thought I was.
Mm.
Um, and I remember we was having this conversation one day, and it was just like I had a bit of a light bulb moment because I think I said to you, he's obviously been in discomfort with his back. I don't know whether I'd say it was painful because knowing him, I think if he was in real pain, I know what he does when he's in pain now. And he goes and stands in a corner and becomes like quiet and shy and doesn't do anything. So I don't think he was in real pain, but it was obviously uncomfortable. And I just thought, this horse has had numerous reasons to put me on the floor every single time I've got on him. And he's never once done that. And he might be silly sometimes, but he's never been nasty.
Mm.
And I think that was a big turning point as well, because it gave me the confidence to do things. And it was like, well, he's not trying to throw you off, so you've got to stay on him. And yeah, that gave me massive confidence, just realizing that he's never once tried to put me on the floor.
Mm. Do you think you've learned more about how to, like you said, you now know if Frog's in pain what he does, but taking out the kind of possible negative side of pain, do you feel like I feel like you have, but I want to see if you like if you feel like you have to read more and like understand like different traits of his personality when you're working and riding him on a day-to-day basis and knowing actually being confident to express your thoughts a bit more.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think like obviously I would have liked him to have stayed with you longer, but Millie and my daughter ended up going to university and we couldn't afford to have her in uni and Frog in retraining. So he came home. And at the time I was on like I think I'd worked it out with something like 34 months until he could come back to you. But actually I'm pleased that we've done it. My friend Harriet's helped me loads, but I'm pleased that we've done it because I understand him so much better now.
Mm.
He does I'm very aware that sometimes I talk about 10% Frog, who is the one that is a dickhead. Because when he goes into that mode, he does it so spectacularly well. That's what you think. But 90% of the time, he's actually really, really good. And he does have a bit of attitude. Um, and you can't tell him to do something because you just go into battle with him and you get nowhere. So you have to ask and ask and ask until he does it. But I don't think I would have had that depth of understanding of him if someone else had done all the work. Um, so yeah, I do think that things happen for a reason. And actually now I'm really pleased that he came home and we had training plans for myself and everything, didn't we, to make sure that we was doing it right. But even now, I'm like, are we doing this right? I still doubt myself. And if he ever does something, I always think it's because I'm not doing something. It normally takes for Harriet to say, it's never going to make your life easy, Nicola. And and even the other day, she said I was riding him, and she went, "He that looked really nice." And I went, "I'm not doing anything." And she went, "What do you mean you're not doing anything?" I went, "I'm just sat here." And she said, "But you're getting him to move like that." And I said, "But he's just doing it on his own." And she was just like, "Oh my God." But I always think it's it's me that's doing something wrong. But when he does something right, I think it's him and not me doing it right. Do you know what I mean? But it's just the way I am.
And then, like, so once you'd had him home, you'd done a bit, and then I still remember it, is that you brought him to an ROR club morning for your first outing ever. Like, first outing, you'd hired a lorry
Yeah.
because you don't have access to transport, and you brought him to a club morning. And do you want to talk me through that? Because I was so proud the fact that we had, like, I think it was what, 2.5 years, I think, after I'd first met
Yeah,
you. Was it 2.5 years?
yeah,
Yeah. So two and a half
yeah.
years. That's quite a long time. Like, it's a long time, isn't it, to think that, what was that? Was it like a year before you got back on him to
It was
run?
he had the surgery in November 23, and
Yeah.
he because he went lame, he had the summer off, the following summer off, and then I brought him back into work in the October 24.
Yeah. And then I think the first club morning was like in a January, was it? January, February
Yeah,
of
I think it
25?
was it this year I did the first club morning? I can't remember.
Last year. It was
I know
last
it
year.
wasn't last year because that's when he had all the sinus things in. It must have been this January.
When when you were talking about this horse, like the years, like that's easily, like you said, you bought him in 2021. So your
Yeah.
first outing with him, which was to a club morning, was in 2026. So that's 5 years. 5 years.
No,
5.
actually, no, no, it must have been last year because it was that really, really, really hot day,
Yeah.
and there was
Well,
all
still
them bad.
4 5 years. Still 4 5 years. 4 5 years.
Yeah, but yeah, it took us 4 years to get anywhere.
No, you've already come really far by that point. But talk to me about your first outing with Frog, because I was really proud of you both. Really
So
proud
the
of
first outing, it was a really, really hot day, and I thought he might lose his little mind a bit because we'd gone somewhere different. And he was so good. He literally didn't put a foot wrong. And I just remember walking around saying, "Leave us alone, Lou. We're just going to walk around. We're not going to do anything,"
you. This
because
was in
at that point
it
I
was
was
in
still a
hand.
bit like,
It was still in
sorry,
hand. It was in hand. I think also it's really important to say you were on the floor at this point. You were just walking around in hand.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think I got on, and he was okay. But I was still at the point where, oh my God, all these people, their horses are going so nice, and there's us like just nowhere near that level. And then I think I got on, and he was okay. And then I thought, oh, that's all right. I'm going to book the next one. We booked the next one. We turned up. We was in the car park. He was absolutely fine. We walked into the arena, and he just went whoosh, and it was like, okay. And that's the one where I just walked and walked and walked. And I think after about half an hour, I was still walking, and I was like, I'm not I wasn't even, I was muttering under my breath, but I was just totally ignoring him and just walking him because I was so pissed off because the first one he'd been so well behaved, and I thought, oh, he's going to be the same, and he wasn't. And then after about 35 minutes, I think it was 40 minutes, I just looked at him and I thought, oh, you'll be okay now. And I got on him because I could just tell from his face he was like, oh, okay. Do you want us to do what everyone else has been doing for the last 35 minutes? And yeah, I jumped on and he was okay. Just but it's again, it's that now I know him. I know when the time to get on him is just because I've learned from his behavior. I understand, just that look on his face. I think absolutely no way. Um, I take him in the school next door because I've got use of their school now, and he doesn't do it so much now, but he used to go absolutely ballistic. And this woman said to me, "Oh, you won't be getting on him today, then, will you?" And I said, "No, no, I will. In a few minutes, it'll be all right." And she looked at me like, "Are you nuts?" And I'm not. It's not that I'm brave. I just know him. And I actually fell into this position where if he didn't go nuts, I didn't want to get on him because I thought if he's been nuts, I know he's got it out of his system. But if he hasn't been nuts, what happens if I get on him and then he goes nuts? Um, so when we was at Catesby, I just knew when it was time to get on him. And I was probably on him for, I don't know, 15 minutes, the most 20 minutes. And afterwards, I just come away and I felt like I'd won the lottery because I just thought, we had this challenge and we just worked through it in our own way. And okay, we didn't ride for long, but we achieved what we wanted to achieve, and that was to go get on him and ride round, albeit just for a third of the time. But we get planned to originally.
But you still did it. And I think people are quite quick to be like, when they think about success of whatever the position they're in, they're quite quick to be like, to be successful, I have to have done this, 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 and this in this session or this environment or this competition. But I think, like you said, to you, I think it's those, what does this horse need? What do I want? And how do we find success and find happiness? And at the beginning of, was it this year or was it last year? You said to me, all I want to do is I want to take him to Blakesley Show and I just want to do it. Like, when was that? When did you tell me
Yeah,
that? When was that?
that was the beginning of this year. I don't know why I had this stupid idea, but I just thought, go to Blakesley show. And then I said it to a few people, and no one went, "Are you mad?" So I thought, "Oh, let's do it." So I booked on. And then, like last week, I was like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" Um, but yeah, I don't even know why I did it because I'm not really interested in the ribbons. I'm really not. I think I just saw it that let's see what he does because we'd been to a few different places. We'd been to for something only with you, hadn't we? And he'd stood on his back legs in the car park. Then we'd been to Catesby and he'd had his little moment. The first time he was fine, but then the second time he had a moment. Um, so I don't know. I just thought going to Blakesley Show would be a good idea. Yeah.
And
Well, so my some friends that we met on holiday, they came down. She came down to help me, and she's very experienced with horses, so it was nice to have her there. But because I picked the lorry up the night before, on the Friday night, he was like he knew something was going on. So in on Saturday morning, he came in and he was just full of it. And I was trying to plait him up and he was just spinning. And I don't know whether this means that I cheated a little bit, but I did give him a couple of millisiderin, which I was like, should I do this? Shouldn't I? But I wouldn't have been able to have plaited him without it. But then someone else said to me, because he can tolerate sedative, so well. Even a lot of our dental issues have been because he's on an IV, what do you call it, sedation, and he can jump out of the sedation. So 2 or 3 millisiderin, part of me thinks it wouldn't make any difference, but it did just settle him down so I could plait him up. Um, and then when we was on in the lorry on the way there, he was stamping about a bit, but he doesn't normally do that now on the lorry. Um, but we got there and he was like, "Oh yeah, just park there right by the entrance." And I was like, "Oh my God." There was just every vehicle coming past us. And I took him off the lorry and he was just like, "Oh, okay, this looks cool." And just walked him round. He literally didn't react to anything. The loudspeakers was going off and he just sort of lifted his head. And it was like he'd done it every single day of his life. So then I think, well, if that's what a couple of mil of settling did, is that such a bad thing? Because he had an amazing experience. We both had an amazing experience. And he was cool, calm, and collected the whole time. So, yeah,
it's kind of always like a fine line to know what to do. And I think also like for you, when you were like when you did it, it was all HC, so it was all kind of, fine and just
yeah,
about the experience, wasn't it, for you and for
yeah,
Fran, and just, chilling out and kind of going and seeing the sights. It wasn't actually about the competing, it was about going and, like you said, it's dealing with the whole potential overwhelm, but knowing that actually kind of we're thinking about his possible brain first rather than everything else.
yeah,
Would you do this whole journey with Frog all over again?
yeah. And I actually only said to the vet the other week, do you know what? I'd take kissing spine every day of the week over dental stuff, cancerous lumps, because we have just grown from it so much and we have just learned so much from it. Um, so yeah, I would do it all over again, and actually I would have another thoroughbred as well. It's not put me off them at all because when you get that bond and that understanding with them, it's just like, he's like my little friend now. And when it's just him and I down the yard, he's just like a big Labrador that follows me around. I don't even use the head collar. unless I look at his face and think, you've got that look on your face today. And then I'll go and get the head collar. But I just open the gates. He wanders in, has his feed. I leave the gate open. He wanders out when he's finished. You know, he's so relaxed, and I think he's really chilled out most of the time because I'm chilled out, and it's just like a circle that we go around in because he's chilled because I'm chilled because I feel like I know what I'm doing. Um, Even when he went lame a couple of months ago, I was like, right, okay, just rang the vet. They came out. The vet spoke to the farrier, popped some 3D pads in, injected his coffin joint, and it was just no big deal. It was just having that confidence and people around you to deal with it.
And how I must say that all the people that saw him at Blakesley Horse Show, I was getting messages from various people like physio, vets. They were all like, Frog looks amazing. It's so lovely to see him here. Like he's being so well behaved and he's being brilliant. And everyone kind of expected him to be Frog, the 10% Frog.
10% frog.
10% Frog. And then everyone was so happy to see him like looking so fantastic and like, the amazing journey that you've been on with him. And like I said, it was so nice whilst I was out doing other things on that Sunday and people were just messaging me kind of they're all so happy for you and so proud and saying how fabulous that he looked and I think his manners
Yeah, he was like,
probably
yeah. I mean, we went
yeah,
in
was
HC and the judge came up to me at the end and she said, if I had a special rosette, I would give it to you. But she said, I'm really sorry, I haven't got one. And I honestly wasn't bothered because, like I said, it wasn't anything about the competing side of it. Um, and she said, he has behaved beautifully. And he did. He stood square because Katie, our physio, she turned up, bless her. And she was like, Nicola, look how square he's standing. And it was really nice because when I introduced her to our friends and my mum came as well, and I said, like, Katie's been with us since the start of the whole kissing spine. She came to yours, didn't she? And she's been there for the whole journey. And she came last week, I think it was. And the last few times she said, oh, just a little bit something here, but I'm being really picky now. And last week she just went, he feels amazing. And, that's the other thing. I feel like it's took perseverance and patience, but now he's so comfortable in his body that I think that's another reason why he's so relaxed and why I'm so relaxed. It's just like all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. And yeah, and it works.
if someone said to you they're considering getting an ex racehorse, what advice would you give them?
I'd probably say get it insured for vet bills.
Agria.
Yeah, yeah. And just have lots and lots of patience. And, always remember that if you take a step backwards, you will then take a step forward. But sometimes it takes a while. I mean, in Frog's case, he's working really beautifully on the lunge now. He does really go nice. It's not coming through under saddle as fast as I would like, but when's Frog ever done anything but in his own time? So we just keep chipping away at it. And but saying that, we've probably focused more on lunging because in the winter, if it's been like quickly before it gets dark, or at the minute it's so hot, I just can't face putting joppers on. So we've not done as much ridden stuff. We've done more lunge stuff, and now I am trying to do more ridden stuff. Um, but yeah, just keep chipping away at it and have that home team because I had a physio before we came to you, and I had a farrier and a saddler, but they wasn't really working together. And now they do work together. So the farrier said to me a few months ago, oh, he feels a bit stiff when I'm picking his back legs up. So I said to Katie when she came the following week, she was like, it's not that bad, but see what Mike thinks. So then Mike came out and injected his hocks. And everyone, if I rang the vet and said, the farrier says this, the physio says this, can you? And he's just, yeah, and he comes and does it. And I just thought that's like an example of everybody working together. And the same when he went a bit slightly lame on the front. It was just, they said this, they said that, and they all know each other. And it's not sort of like, oh, bring him for a lameness assessment or anything like that. Everyone just works together, and he, he's proof that it works. And even now, like my saddler, she's coming next week. She always says to me, try and book the physio a week or two before I come. And the first thing she says is, what does your physio say? And I tell her, and then she'll just go quickly across his back and she'll say, yeah, I agree with that. And I just think with how lucky are we to just have that amazing support around us. So, and I suppose it's if you get any horse, not just the next racehorse, but the home team, we talk about home teams on these webinars, but actually having one and experiencing how it works, you just can't rate it enough because it really does make the difference.
And like you said, it's quite difficult when when you've had the previous people that didn't talk to each other, it's then quite over daunting and facing of like, well, who do I trust? Like when you kind of experience that, well, who do I go to, or who do I trust? Or I don't feel like this is quite working. So how do we kind of move forward within this? Because the saddler was a prime example of, when you then went home, it was then like a saddler that your physio recommended, and that then really helped you, didn't it? Because it was like trying to
Mm.
find a saddle that fitted him and you felt comfortable in. That was quite a bit of a tricky situation, and getting the saddler at the time to listen was a bit of a trickster. So then when you went
Yeah.
home, it was really important that again, it was like, well, how do I trust someone? And again, it's like, well, I trust my physio, so they have recommended someone. They're not going to recommend someone that isn't ideal.
No, and my old saddler, she when we was at yours, what sort of I came away after that appointment thinking she wasn't listening to what you were saying, you was feeling, but you was always also saying like how Frog was feeling, and there was just no consideration for any of that. It was just she wanted to fit this certain type of saddle, and that wasn't in Frog's best interest. So it was just, I thought, I really don't want to upset anybody. But actually, I didn't upset anybody. I just didn't rebook her because it has to be what's best for him. I
Yeah,
did take
I
the
think
chickens way out. I just sort of forgot to rebook. And I do feel a bit bad about that because I think I should have perhaps said, I'm just gonna, I don't think we're on the same page, but yeah, hindsight and all that. But she was
I
a nice
think it's
lady. There was nothing
it was
horrible
nothing.
about her.
I think it's also one of those things of if you have those conversations and say, I don't feel like we're on the same wavelength, is that going to cause more offense than if I just don't
Well,
rebook?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But this Sadler, she's just absolutely amazing. I mean, she's just, yeah. Like a bit like when I met you and I really got what you were saying. This one, I really get what she's saying. Um,
Like you
yeah.
said, she puts
So,
Frog first. She puts Frog first. Any last closing remarks or anything you'd like to say?
um,
Cool.
no, I don't think so. Just like, don't give up because we probably for the first 4 years, I mean, like the vet bills were just like even insured, it was just like crazy, absolutely crazy what the vet bills were. And I did used to think when this is going to be my life, like just paying off vet bills constantly. Um, and it did feel like it was never going to end. Um, but I don't want to say it's ended because, this is fog, but it's certainly not as intense as it was prior to this period. And we've had a really good run recently, but I'd like to think that's because we rode the rough times and we have worked on him and got him to a place where he is happy and he feels well and we're happy. And yeah, just don't give up because it will come good eventually.
I like that. So just final things for before we go into questions is remember if you are at all taking anything away from Nick's thing this evening, get insured. Go and scan the QR code. Or even a really, really, really good thing would be I've bumped into a few people that have been on, like, listen to these webinars through various out and about activities, and they've said how much they love the webinars. Please do write an email to Ali at RoR saying that you really like them and love them and that you're finding them great. Because it then helps, she can forward them on to the people at Agria and they like to hear that, or take a screenshot of something and tag them on social media. It really, really, really does help, and it just shows, thanks and appreciation as well. It's just, they're very brilliant with their support of the RoR and all the events. And then one last thing, if you haven't registered with the RoR, please do. Please, 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 please do. Please sign up. Like I said, it is it's very straightforward. It's just scan the QR code. And it is really, really good. And like I said, if you're interested in regional activities and stuff, you can sign up to more, like it kind of puts you onto newsletters and it tells you what's going on. So please do sign up with that. So that being said, that's stopping. Right. Questions. Does anyone have any questions? Questions.
Rosemary's asked, how much did the surgery cost? The kiss and spine surgery.
I think it was around about 4,000, so just over 4,000, something like that. But actually, it's not the surgery well, it's not just the surgery, because you have your physios, and that, it's the extra costs like that. He had laser treatment with the physio, which was, I think it was it? That was about 12 months after surgery, once he'd got to a certain stage. But I think that was like every other week for 6 or 8 weeks. So that mounts up. Yeah, so again, the cost of the surgery wasn't the biggie, it was everything that went afterwards. And he was insured, but I think we just went over the limit.
And Frog also had lasers on his back straight after surgery as well. So that was kind of on top of the surgery, wasn't it? He had that toasted
Yeah,
bacon.
I think he stayed in for a week, didn't he? And he had it every day for a week.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
quite sad after surgery. But again, like you said, insurance wise, it's do it.
Yeah, definitely. I honestly would, like you, I don't really comment a lot on Facebook, but I'm on a few kissing spine sites, and someone, if they ever like seem to be really down about it all, I always just put best thing that we ever did, go for the surgery, you won't look back, because that was my experience of it. And again, I do feel very lucky that it was such a positive thing for us. So
And then
it's not all doom.
as a result of it, like you said, it's kind of everything else is then built forward from that point, and it's been kind
Yeah,
of being able to like know him, going hacking, like doing the things that you love and that you enjoy has been really, really important as well. Like really important. And like I think you say you're not brave, but I do think an element of bravery comes into it, like knowing your horse but being brave. And it's like I think you spoke really quite eloquently about how you can read him and you know when to do something and when not to do something. And I think it'd be quite difficult for people to navigate of like how I feel fear. So how can I not let my fear override my wants?
yeah. I never really the fear, mine was a bit weird. So like when I first had him, I think well, quite a few people came to see him and they were like, I think he's lovely, but you're mad. Or he's lovely, but you're braver than me. And you can let comments like that get in your head. And if we was out hacking, and I don't know, he used to nap a lot, and that was 100% due to the kissing spine. It is slightly in his nature to do that, but we've now worked ways around it, because we do hack alone. I prefer to hack alone, because he naps more when there's a horse with him, because he's like, oh, that's too scary. Where are you? And he looks behind him for something to come and give him a lead. Whereas if he's on his own, he's just like, oh, I've got to be brave and go past it. But when we had some situations, my friend said to me, but you just deal with it. And I said, but afterwards, I'm like, oh, I get scared afterwards. I know that sounds stupid, but in the time, I just deal with it. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, what happens if he'd have done this? He could have done this, and I'd have done that. And then, oh, I could have fell off, and oh, I'd have broke my arm. Oh, if I broke my arm. And you just like, overthink everything, catastrophize it, and it just becomes this massive issue. So I do feel fear, but not at the time, it's afterwards. And it's learning how to just not go down that route with it because you just never get on them if you overthought it. Well, I wouldn't. So, yeah,
I think you've kind of answered this, but are you glad that you bought him?
100%.
Yeah.
Just like he's just my friend, and I know that sounds a bit wet and mushy, but just when like you go down and he's just standing there looking at you, waiting for his feed. I know all he's worried about is his feed. He's not thinking, oh, bless her, here she is. He's just like, he's focusing, he wants his feed or a dog to come in or whatever. But yeah, yeah. I mean, he's never going anywhere. He's with us, he's forever. And however long that is. But yeah, I wouldn't be without him now.
The only thing I want to ask you, which might sound a bit negative, but I think it's really important, is that however these horses enter our lives, whether we found them direct from a trainer, direct from a retrainer, direct from a private sale, I do think that sometimes when we've got a horse like Frog that's had like feet concerns, back concerns, ridden concerns, all the concerns, teeth concerns, it's really easy to kind of point the finger and point blame sometimes at people before us that haven't done things right, or people try to claim, I don't know, positive stuff that for what someone else has done. Does that make sense? Like hard work and things like that. And like, are you able, or do you just see, okay, Frog is Frog and I'm on my journey with Frog, or do you see it as a case of, do you want to ever place blame, or is it like, no, this is our journey and that's it?
No, I just sort of think that, you know, it's hard because like people try their best and I see people, I know someone that's got an ex-racer trying their best and it's a different way to how I would do it because of my experiences with Frog. And I would never dream of saying, oh, do this or do that. If they asked me, I'd perhaps go around the houses and say, well, I did it this way. But even though Frog is now in a really good place, I don't feel I would never blow my own trumpet over it because I'm just a very, very small part of a group of people that have got him to this place. So I think as long as someone has tried to do their best and whether that's worked out or not, then yeah, I don't point the blame at anyone. I just think, it's just learning to read them, isn't it? And perhaps other people before me didn't have him long enough to really understand him and listen to him. And I don't really know his journey and up until when I've had him. So, I don't know whether the lady I bought him off got him straight from the race yard, or I think he might have gone to a retraining place before. But yeah, so I'm just thankful that he had the journey that he had, so he ended up with me. That's the way I look at it, because I wouldn't want to be without him.
I think that's lovely. Robin,
Mushy, mushy.
I love mushy. Go with mushy. Be mushy with horses. I'm not mushy with anyone else. Like, no, I'm mushy with horses. I'm mushy with my dog. I'm really conscious that people might be able to hear my dog snoring. She is like passed out snoring behind me, and I keep thinking, God, can anyone hear that? So I'm all mushy for it. But Robin, any last things?
Victoria had said earlier, and you've answered it throughout, that when you say you know him, you would know if he was in pain, and you've sort of, as the story's progressed, you can see how, because you know him so well, that you notice every little sort of change in his behavior, and I think that's really key, isn't it, Lou, with sort of, you talked about gut instinct earlier on, because the owners know their horses so well that actually that gut instinct is something to actually listen to.
I think it's like, so I have it with Quad. When Quad is really, really poorly, he doesn't thrash around. He likes a colic. Quad loves a colic. Quad doesn't get down and thrash around. He literally lies down and looks sad. And I sound mental when I phone up the vet receptionist and I'm like, Quad looks sad. quad's sick, someone needs to come and draw some bloods off him right now. I don't know what's wrong with him, but his inflammation rate is high enough that quaddy looks sad. And if it's a normal receptionist, they're fine. But if it's a new one, they're like, I don't think sad is a diagnosis. And I'm like, no, quaddy looks sad. So you do, and it's really, I find it quite daunting when I read the stuff on social media or on the internet, and it gives you the signs of horses and how they show signs of pain or discomfort. That list is, I mean, it's so long. It is so long. And it's so hard to not send yourself a little bit around the houses about it. But it is the time that you spend with the horses to get to know them, to read them, to understand them and how they're trying to express themselves. Like, again, that's the really cool part of having a horse and having a bond with a horse. But it's also the most like questionable part of our sanity of learning, like what do they do and how do they respond, because each horse responds differently. Each horse has a different pain tolerance. I've got one, if he has a sniff of an abscess, he is on the floor with his foot in the air groaning and moaning, whereas I've got another one that can blown abscesses out of his feet. He won't even go lame and his legs won't even get puffy, and you'll just see that he's blown an abscess and he won't say a thing. So again, it's knowing each horse. It's really really tricky, but it's knowing what each horse needs to do and how they respond. And it's the same with training and
And I think
management.
as well, the way I've approached things now is everything he does, why is he doing it? You know, and it's getting that balance so you don't overthink it. But if I go down in a minute and he stood in his field shelter looking all sad and just standing there, I'll know that there's something up with him, because that's just how he is. And if if I go down and he's well, he doesn't really charge around now, but if I went down and he was charging around, I'd be like, right, is the combine been in the field behind us? Or, it's looking at why is he doing that? And I've always probably done it, but I've massively overthought it. Whereas now I don't. It's like, why has he done it? 5 seconds later, okay, he's done it because of this, and this. And that all helps just build that understanding and that relationship.
It is a little bit funny because Nick got a camera, as it
I love
last
camera.
Nick got a camera, and I thought it was going to be her biggest undoing because Nick watches Frog like a hawk, which is great. But Frog also knows how to slightly wind Nicola up, and so there was a couple of occasions when he was here that she'd phone me and she'd be like, "Frog's jumping up and down in his stable. You need to come and sort it out." And I'd just be like, "Walk away from him." She'd be like, "No, there's something wrong." And I went, "Walk away." And she'd walk away and then peek her head round the corner and Frogby stood dead still eating his hay net like there is nothing going on. And he used to slightly wind Nick up a little bit, or they used to wind each other up. And so when Nick got a camera, I was like, oh, this is good. And like you had it with fireworks, didn't you? One night you were watching
Yeah,
the
that's
camera,
why I
there were
bought it
fire
because of the fireworks.
yeah, and he was just stood in his stable, not giving a care. And then you drove down the field and he started jumping up and down.
Yeah.
You were dead.
So
And I
last year, when it was night time, they were still out all the time. But because we are at the edge of a village, we put them in for the fireworks night. And I was literally like glued to my phone looking at him. And he was just, oh, that's pretty. He was so chilled. And then it was about, I don't know, it was about 10:30. And I rang my friend and I said, I think they've stopped now. Shall we go down? So we went down to turn them out. And it takes me like 3 or 4 minutes to get there from home. And I looked on the camera and he was stood all chilled. And by the time I opened the gate and got down there, he was spinning. And I was like, Frog, I am not having that because you were just standing there. And it was like, oh my God, I've got to pretend I'm scared. You let me out. And rah, rah, rah. And honestly, I just thought you absolute con artist. But I do love my camera and I would recommend getting one. And I don't really go on it now that much, to be honest.
which is good. I thought she's going to be attached to that camera like glue, and if that horse sneezes, like what we didn't touch on, which we don't need to go into, but Frog has a titanium tooth plugs in his head, which cost the best part of 2 grand. 2 grand.
But they're about £1,000 each. He's got one in place, one floating around. He's had one dug out and he's lost one.
When I say
Yeah.
Frog, everything. Frog has everything. And I think at one point you were walking around the field trying to find titanium on the grass to see if you could stick to like
I
that's a
thought I
grand.
might be able to sell it second hand on eBay, even if I got 500 quid for it.
You're very chilled about the loss of that titanium.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I have to be because honestly, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like they
We've
say,
got
the
some,
vet bills, it's a whole new webinar, isn't it? Let's be
yeah.
honest.
We've got some lovely comments from people. Elaine said, I haven't got a question, but I can't find the chat, but just wanted to say what an amazing story. Thank you for sharing it. Frog sounds
Oh, thank you.
amazing.
That's really kind.
Congratulations. Gina said, not a question, but when you said about dealing with things in the moment and then being scared after and then going down the rabbit hole, it's not just me. And I think it's for all of us, isn't it? We're very good at reacting, and then it's like that, oh my God, what could have happened, thinking about it. It's so frustrating, but I'm glad I'm not the only one. My boy is currently on rehab post-surgery, so only at the very start, but I just want a happy, healthy horse at the end, and if I'm lucky, I can actually ride and have some fun on.
Oh,
I
that would
think
make me go a bit goosey because that's like, you know, that's I know exactly what that feeling is, and you just, yeah, stick with it and you'll get there. It's,
it's
yeah,
the time, isn't it? It's the daunting thing of the time and the effort, the amount of time and effort and headache that the rehab like takes, and it's quite difficult getting your head wrapped around it. But I think if you keep at the forefront of your brain as I just want to be able to have a happy, healthy horse that I might be able to ride, or I want like that should be like on a whiteboard or on a post-it somewhere, so you see it every single day, so that when you do have some tough times, you see it religiously to remind you why you're doing it. I stick stuff on my fridge because I go in the fridge a lot. So I stick things on my fridge because I'm always seeing it all the time, like phrases or mantras or why I'm doing things. Fridge.
I've got that video. I think I sent it to you a few months ago. It just came up on Facebook Memories, and it was the first time you'd got on him after surgery. And I don't know, these things happen sometimes for a reason, don't they? But I was having a bit of trouble riding him in school. Nothing major. I mean, I was riding him, but just couldn't get him to go how I wanted. And that video just popped up on my memories, and I sent it to Harriet, and I was like, oh my God, look at this video. And she replied, you ought to look at that whenever you think you've had a bad day. And it, you know, it really does work because that was our starting point. And to see where we're at now, even if we take a backward step, we're far still ahead of where we was.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
that I find that quite good.
I think it's really key to remember. Robin, anything else?
No.
We're all good. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording here. So next month we are back on the more kind of, I suppose, educational side of things. Ali's going to either correct me right now. I want to say September is nutritional.
Yes, September's feeding.
There we go. October's bitting.
Yes.
November is we're going to ask all the panelists to come back. So Lloyd, Abby Vet, Phil Farrier,
Justine, behaviorist.
yeah, all come on to do like a big Q&A, massive Q&A, and that is going to be November's. And then December, I think we're going to go back to the Christmas quiz or come up with something. Rob doesn't look happy with the Christmas quiz, but I don't know how we can do a Christmas quiz and lots of people.
I think we should do a Christmas quiz again, but get as many people as possible.
I think it'd be good fun. So yes, that is the plan for the rest of 2026 as it stands. But yes, so I hope you all have a lovely